It started on a Tuesday. Of course it did. Nothing shatters your life on a weekend. Weekends are for brunch, for trimming hedges, for arguing over who left the garage light on. Tuesdays? They're quiet assassins. I was halfway through grading a stack of essays on The Great Gatsby. Nothing screams irony like judging teenagers for misunderstanding disillusionment when the doorbell rang. 7:43 p.m. sharp. I remember because the digital clock on the microwave blinked like it had something to say. Monica, my wife, was in the kitchen, dicing vegetables with her usual culinary precision. Every chop of the knife echoed like a ticking time bomb. Click, click, chop, slice. I opened the door, and there he was. A young man, probably 18, skinny, awkward posture like he hadn't grown into his height yet. Familiar eyes. Too familiar. Can I help you? I asked, still holding the red pen like a weapon. He shifted on his feet. Mr. Keller? That's me. He extended a hand. I'm Eli Brenner. I'm your son. Now let's pause. When a stranger tells you they're your son, your brain does something bizarre. It goes through a catalog of life choices like flipping through a Rolodex on fire. I hadn't cheated. I wasn't that guy. Or so I thought. My grip tightened on the doorknob. That's not possible, I said. But even as I said it, I felt the walls tilt a little. His mother's name? Jessica Brenner. Sophomore year of college. A brief fling that ended with the semester. I hadn't heard from her since. But Eli had a birth certificate. A photo. A pair of eyes that mirrored mine like a cruel prank. Monica came into the hallway right then, holding a dish towel. She took one look at Eli, then at me, and the world split open with one question. Who is this? And I, in my infinite wisdom, replied, he says he's my son. The towel dropped. What followed was not a fight. Fights have noise. Fights give you something to push against. What came next was the quiet implosion of a 20-year marriage. Monica didn't yell. She didn't cry. She exiled. You need to leave, she said. Monica, I didn't know. 30 minutes, she said, dialing her sister. I packed a bag like I was stealing from myself. Socks, toothbrush, the sweater she bought me last fall when we still made each other laugh. I didn't beg. She wouldn't have listened. Not now. Maybe not ever. I left with a suitcase and a silence so heavy it buckled the door behind me. I didn't go far. Holiday Inn Express on Maple. Room 214. Eli's room. I didn't knock. Not yet. The Holiday Inn lobby smelled like desperation and lemon-scented disinfectant. I checked in under my own name. The woman at the desk handed me a room key and a coupon for the breakfast bar. Enjoy your stay, she said like I hadn't just been booted from my marriage. Room 214. Eli's room. But I didn't go there. Not yet. Instead, I sat on the edge of the motel bed and stared at my phone. Monica had texted, "Please don't come back." That was it. Not a period. Just silence, like a sentence abandoned mid-thought. Eventually, curiosity, or maybe guilt, pulled me upstairs. Room 214. I knocked. Eli opened the door wearing a hoodie that might have once been mine. He looked tired, wary, but he smiled. Didn't think you'd actually come, he said. I didn't think I would either, I replied. He stepped aside. The room smelled like fast food and teenage uncertainty. One bed was messy. The other had a pristine backpack perched on it like a trophy. I sat in the desk chair. So you're really my son? He nodded. DNA tests on the way. But I already know. I believed him. I didn't say it, but I did. He had Jessica's eyes and my terrible posture. The math added up, and the math never lies. People do, but not numbers. We talked. Or tried. I asked questions, what he liked, what he wanted to do after high school. He told me about his mom's last days, how she made him promise to find me. Said I had a right to know. That was rich. I had a son, a motel room, and a marriage that had self-destructed faster than a sneeze. What did I have a right to? I'm not expecting anything, Eli said, looking at the TV without turning it on. Just thought, maybe we could talk. Yeah, I said and surprised myself. We can talk. He didn't want money. He didn't want revenge. He just wanted a father. But back at home, Monica was probably rewriting history in real time, telling friends I'd hidden a child from her, that I'd been living a double life, that she'd been betrayed. Which, sure, it looked like that, from her seat. But what about mine? I'd just met a kid who shared my DNA, a kid who didn't ask to exist, didn't knock on my door to ruin my life, but just to find out if the guy behind the name was real. And the truth? I didn't even know who I was anymore. Later, I went back to my own room. Sat on the floor with my back against the bed, phone buzzing every hour. From Monica, you owe me everything. From her sister, she's devastated. From Eli, thanks for talking. It meant more than you know. I didn't answer any of them. I just stared at the carpet pattern and realized I wasn't just losing a marriage. I was stepping into a truth I never saw coming. And she? Monica wasn't just hurt. She was planning something. Something that would make me wish a long-lost son was the worst of my problems. 2 days passed before Monica called me. Not a text. A call. That alone should have been my first warning. Monica didn't do phone calls unless someone was dead or dying. But I answered, because some habits die hard. Adam, she said, voice crisp like cold wine. We need to talk. I braced myself. About Eli? No, she said. About you. That was vague enough to keep me awake for the next 12 hours. We met at her sister's place. Neutral ground. I walked in wearing the same jeans I'd worn for 2 days straight, because nothing says stability like recycled denim. Monica sat on the edge of the love seat like she was negotiating a hostage release. I had lunch with your coworker, she said. I blinked. Which one? Jenna. Ah, Jenna. 25, perky, and the type of person who says literally when she means very. I hadn't seen her outside of work functions and department birthday cakes. Why was Monica having lunch with her? I asked her, Monica said, pausing for dramatic effect, if there was anything going on between you two. I stared. Seriously. She laughed, Monica continued. Said you were too boring to cheat. That you're always the last one to leave meetings and you still bring your lunch in a Tupperware. Tuna, specifically. That's true. Exactly, she said, folding her arms. You're not a liar, Adam. You're just stupid. No, I didn't take offense at that. Mostly because it was technically accurate. I don't think you ever meant to hurt me, she added. But you did. By omission. I didn't know, I said again, quieter this time. That's not what hurts, she said. What hurts is how quickly you left. I didn't reply. Because the real kicker? She was right. I had packed my bag like a guy catching the last train out of Dignity Station. But don't worry, she continued, with that practiced tone that meant she'd already rehearsed this speech in the mirror. I've been doing some thinking. And I don't want to fight. Oh, I want a separation. Not a messy one. Just space. For both of us. That's reasonable, I said, while everything in me screamed that this wasn't about reason at all. We agreed to split the bank accounts, divide the furniture, and meet with a mediator. Civilized. Neat. Efficient. And then, as I was leaving, she said it. I've been talking to someone. I froze. What do you mean? She looked away. A friend. Male. Silence. She didn't deny it. And just like that, the floor shifted again. I had shown up ready to defend my innocence, but the game had already changed. And I was the only one still playing by the old rules. So I nodded. Of course she had someone. Of course this wasn't just about Eli. This was about control. About leverage. About setting the narrative before I could even get my shoes tied. As I stepped into the cold, I realized something unsettling. She hadn't asked me how Eli was. Not once. It's funny how a name can ruin your day. 3 days after Monica declared our separation like some royal decree, I got a call from Eli. His voice was steady, but I could hear the edge in it. That slight tension only a teenager trying to be a man can carry. Hey. So I met someone today. At the library, he said. She said she knew you. Real well. Who? He hesitated. Her name's Paula. I blinked. Paula Sanders? Yeah. She said she was friends with your wife. I rubbed my eyes. Paula was Monica's Pilates partner, wine buddy, and part-time gossip columnist, unofficially. The woman could weaponize small talk. If she had spoken to Eli, the entire suburban ecosystem probably knew by now that I had a surprise 18-year-old kid and a suitcase with my name on it parked in a Holiday Inn. She asked a lot of questions, Eli added. About you. About Jessica. Did you answer? Not really. I just said I came to meet my dad. She didn't like that. No. I bet she didn't. I thanked him, hung up, and stared at the wall for 5 full minutes. Paula talking to Eli wasn't a coincidence. It was strategy. Monica had put her in motion. Planting seeds. Rewriting the story. And then, like the universe heard me muttering about betrayal and decided to double down, I got a message. A photo. It came from an unknown number, but I knew the room. Monica's living room. My living room. Same rug. Same bookshelf with my old Hemingway collection, except now there was a man. Mid-40s, smug smile, wine glass in hand, sitting on my couch like he owned the place. The message read, "Just so you know what you're fighting for." No name, no follow-up, just a digital slap. My hands trembled, not from anger, but from the sheer absurdity of it. I zoomed in on the photo. The guy wore a blue button-down. No wedding ring. He looked like the kind of man who knew exactly how to arrive late and still be treated like royalty. The type who wouldn't be caught dead grading high school essays or clipping grocery coupons. I stared at his face for a long time. Then I opened the file info. Metadata. The picture was taken the day before Monica and I met at her sister's place. Before the "I just want space" talk. So while she was promising civility, he was already warming my side of the sofa. And suddenly, I understood. This wasn't about Eli. Not really. That was just the crack in the armor. Monica had been drifting for months, emotionally, mentally. The coldness. The lack of eye contact. The last time we kissed, she turned her face halfway like she was dodging a sneeze. And now? The picture confirmed it. She hadn't just moved on. She'd been moving for a while. My phone buzzed again. Another message. From Monica this time. "Please don't try to spin this. We both need to heal. I hope you'll be respectful." Heal? From what? Honesty? I didn't reply. Instead, I got in the car and drove. Not to Monica's. Not to Eli's. I went to the school. My classroom. Neutral ground. That's the thing about grief. It doesn't care if it's a weekday. It doesn't wait for office hours. I sat behind my desk and stared at the whiteboard. My marker notes from last Friday still ghosted across it. Symbolism and Gatsby. I laughed. Just once. The irony was too rich. Jay Gatsby threw lavish parties trying to win back a woman who'd already sold her heart to someone else. Sounded familiar. At 5:14 p.m., Jenna from the English department knocked on my door. "You're still here?" she asked, leaning in. Apparently. She tilted her head. "You look like you found out your house is haunted." "Close," I said. "I just realized it always was." Jenna came in, sat across from me, and didn't ask anything else. She just sat there. Quiet. Real. And for 5 minutes, I wasn't a man with a broken marriage and an unexpected son. I was just Adam Keller, teacher, tired, existing. She finally said, "I don't know what's going on, but for what it's worth, you seem like the kind of guy who deserves better." I nodded, because I had nothing else to give. When I left the school that night, I didn't feel lighter. But I did feel ready. Monica wanted a separation? Fine. But what she didn't expect was that I'd stop playing nice. She wanted to rewrite history? I was going to start writing my own version. And the man in that photo? He just gave me a reason to find the ending to this story. And I promise you this. It won't be a happy one. Not for them. I didn't find out his name from Monica. That would have been too easy. I found it from the mortgage documents. You see, when you've co-signed your life with someone, you don't need to hack into their phone or plant a GPS tracker. You just need access to the joint account. Monica had a habit of linking everything to our shared email, even while emotionally unsubscribing from our marriage. Monday morning, I logged into the statement history. There it was. A $378 charge to Café Granville, a sleek little brunch spot where people took selfies with their food and hashtags were more important than taste. It wasn't the transaction that caught my eye, it was the note. Monica, meticulous even in her treachery, had categorized it as dining, Leo. First name basis. Leo. Like he was already on the Christmas card list. I copied the receipt, the timestamp, and the name. Then I Googled Leo plus Café Granville plus photo. Took 3 scrolls. There he was. Mr. Blue Button Down. The man from my couch. Holding a mimosa, standing next to Monica. She wore a denim jacket I hadn't seen in weeks. Her head tilted toward him like gravity itself had a preference. And the caption? Brunching with brilliance, brain sparkles, #Leo knows best. I didn't throw my phone. That would have been too cinematic. I didn't curse or scream. I just stared at the screen like it was a museum exhibit on the extinction of loyalty. I clicked on his profile. Leo Donnelly. Corporate strategist. Frequent speaker at human potential seminars. His bio read, optimizing people and passion. I almost gagged. He had 8,300 followers and posted quotes like, "Discomfort is just growth in disguise," which was rich, coming from a guy hiding behind brunch and borrowed couches. It was surreal. I wasn't angry. Not exactly. I was interested. Who was Leo Donnelly? How long had he been circling? What exactly had he optimized in my wife? So I did what any red-blooded man with a mild grudge and decent internet skills would do. I made a burner account, followed Leo, watched his stories. One of them showed a blurry living room shot, Monica's throw pillows in the background. The caption said, "Monday nights done right. Red wine and deep talks." Translation: drinking in another man's house while pretending I earned it. I scrolled deeper, back a few months. A post from late February showed Leo on a hiking trail. I recognized the tree line behind him. Monica's sister owned a cabin near that spot. The comments? From Monica, "Wish I could have stayed longer." He replied, "Next time, no excuses," winking face. Now, let's pause for a moment. That was a full 3 weeks before Eli knocked on our door. Before any of this came crashing down. So no, she didn't fall into someone's arms after the news. She had a head start. I was the slow runner in a race I didn't know I was in. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the planning. The casual way she built a soft landing with someone else while I was still trying to figure out the IKEA drawer she never got around to organizing. That night, I sat in my car across from the cafe, just parked there with a thermos of stale coffee, watching people come and go. I wasn't stalking. I wasn't planning. I was learning. At 8:12 p.m., Leo arrived. He drove a dark gray Audi. Of course he did. The kind of car that screams midlife awareness, not quite a crisis. He wore the same smug face from the photo, same watch, same air of someone who'd never had to explain himself to anyone who mattered. He walked inside, met someone, couldn't see who, and they hugged. Long familiar. His hand rested on the small of her back a little too long. Not Monica this time. But the point had been made. Leo didn't just cheat. He collected. I watched him for exactly 19 minutes, then drove back to the motel, parked in the same spot, and sat there thinking about everything that brought me to this exact square of asphalt. Monica had rewritten the rules. Leo had rewritten the cast. And me? I had a son I barely knew, a marriage I no longer mourned, and a front row seat to the world's quietest train wreck. The next day, I made a choice. Not revenge. Not yet. But clarity. I texted Monica, "I'll agree to the separation. But we're splitting everything. Assets. House. Custody of the dog. All of it. Fair and final." She replied an hour later, "Fine." That was her favorite word when she was losing. That same day, I met Eli again. At the park. He brought a chessboard. "You play?" he asked. "Used to," I said, sitting down. "I was decent." "Good," he said. "I'm terrible. Teach me." So I did. Move by move, teaching him what I knew about pawns and queens, sacrifice and timing. He was patient, curious. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something in my chest that wasn't dread. This wasn't the end. This was the pivot. And Leo? He just made the wrong move. If you'd asked me 2 months ago whether I'd ever hire a private investigator, I would have laughed. That kind of thing was for movies and messy divorces, not for high school teachers with early bird Costco memberships. But then again, I also didn't think I'd be sleeping in a hotel room that smelled like off-brand air freshener and betrayal. His name was Clay. Clay didn't smile. He didn't wear sunglasses indoors. He didn't say, "I've seen worse." He just listened, took notes, and asked 2 questions after I laid out the basics. "Do you want the truth or the story?" I blinked. "Aren't they the same thing?" He raised one eyebrow. "Not usually." I said, "I want the kind of truth that holds up in court and in conversation." He wrote something down and nodded. "Then I'll need 3 weeks. And access to whatever digital trail you can give me." I handed over Monica's old tablet, one she'd forgotten still synced to our shared cloud. It wasn't much. Some travel confirmations. A few benign texts. But it was enough for Clay to get started. And for me? I got to wait. Wait, and pretend I wasn't measuring my future by how many gigabytes of deception could fit on a thumb drive. I filled the time with Eli. We kept meeting at the park. He started showing up early, bringing fast food, his knuckles pink from the wind. He asked questions, nothing deep yet, just the kind that fill in a picture. "What was your major? Did you ever get in fights? Were you good at sports?" I gave honest answers. "English? No, and only if you count bowling," I said. He laughed. "You don't look like a bowler." I wasn't. That's why I liked it. He asked about Monica once. Carefully. "What was she like? Back when you two were?" "Good." That stung a little, the back win. But I didn't correct him. He was right. "She was warm," I said, after a pause. "Not soft. Just warm. Like the kind of person who always knew which burner was on." He nodded. Didn't push. The day after Thanksgiving, I got Clay's call. "Meet me," he said. "You're going to want this in person." That was the kind of sentence that makes your ribs tighten. I met him at a diner just outside town, the kind that still smelled like cigarette ghosts and pancakes. He slid a file across the table. Her boyfriend, Leo Donnelly. He's not just your wife's plus one. He's been in the picture longer than you think. How long? He flipped open the file. Almost a year. First documented sighting, charity gala last March. He wasn't on the guest list, but he was on her arm. He showed me photos. Surveillance level stuff. Not dramatic. Just too familiar. His hand on the small of her back. Her laugh aimed directly at his mouth. A hotel check-in log 2 weeks later, under a fake name that Clay traced back to Leo's corporate card. Receipts. Emails. A plane ticket to Miami booked under Margaret Stone, Monica's go-to alias for email newsletters. It was all there. Then Clay turned the page. You also asked for the story, he said. I didn't respond. Here it is. Leo's been divorced twice. Both times messy. Both times after affairs. His exes didn't press charges, but there were settlements. Confidential, but substantial. I felt my jaw tighten. So he's got a pattern. Like clockwork, Clay said. And now Monica's part of it. He handed me one last thing, a photo. From 3 weeks ago. Monica, standing in our kitchen. My kitchen, wearing one of my old flannel shirts, pouring wine into 2 glasses. Leo sat on the bar stool. His laptop was open. They weren't smiling. They were focused. On a document. Clay tapped the corner. That's a prenup draft. I got a partial match. His firm uses templates. She's rewriting everything before the ink's dry on your separation. It landed like a piano. She wasn't just moving on. She was fireproofing, making sure I'd have nothing left but echoes and used furniture. I paid Clay, thanked him, told him I hoped he had less depressing clients. He just said, you'd be surprised. On the way home, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I stopped at the hardware store and bought a new padlock for my storage unit. Then I drove out there, Unit 318, off the service road, and opened it. Inside, boxes. Memories. The kind of stuff you pack when you don't know if you'll ever unpack again. I found one box labeled Wedding. Pulled out our photo album. Monica's smile, my dumb haircut. People clapping in the background like we were both worth rooting for. I closed it, shoved it back, and slid it behind a crate labeled Christmas. And then I sat down on the cold cement floor and finally started thinking about revenge. Not the loud kind. Not the criminal kind. The kind that takes its time. The kind that walks in calmly, smiles at the party, and drops the truth like a drink on white carpet. She wanted a clean break? I was going to make sure it sparkled. The invitation arrived on a Wednesday. Cream-colored, thick as arrogance, with gold trim and embossed lettering that screamed important. It didn't come in an envelope addressed to Mr. Adam Keller. No, it was hand-delivered by Paula. Of course it was Paula. She stood on the motel steps like a UPS driver with a grudge, smiling too wide, like this was all perfectly normal. Thought you should have this, she chirped, handing me the envelope. What is it? I asked, already knowing. She gave me a once-over. You'll see. And then she left. No small talk. No warning. Just a hit-and-run with a luxury cardstock weapon. I opened it slowly, more out of disbelief than suspense. The edges were lined with glitter. The font was some cursive monstrosity you only see on overpriced wedding programs and failed perfume brands. You are cordially invited to celebrate the engagement of Monica Elaine Foster and Leo James Donnelly. Saturday, December 17th. 5 p.m., Winter Garden Ballroom. Formal attire champagne reception to follow. Below it, no gifts. Just presents and peace. I read it 3 times. The words didn't change, but something inside me did. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was performance art. A theatrical production of reinvention where I'd been demoted from lead actor to uninvited audience. It hadn't even been 6 weeks since she kicked me out. 6 weeks. And now she was playing hostess to a relationship built on lies, brunch, and selective memory. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat by the motel window, watching the snow fall like ash, and thought about how quickly people move on when they've been emotionally gone for years. Monica hadn't just replaced me. She'd rewritten me. Cast Leo in the role I spent 2 decades refining. He got the tailored suit, the hand-picked wine glasses, the laugh she used to save for me. And I got a cream envelope telling me to smile about it. I thought about throwing it away. Instead, I taped it to the mirror. Because I don't believe in erasing evidence. I believe in remembering. The next day, I called Eli. Want to come with me to something weird? I asked. He laughed. How weird are we talking? Formal wear weird. Are we crashing something? Not yet, I said. But we will be attending. Eli, to his credit, didn't ask too many questions. That kid had a way of reading the emotional temperature without checking the thermostat. He said he had a suit from senior pictures. I said that was good enough. 2 days before the event, I sent Monica a message. Just one line. Thanks for the invite. I'll be there. And I won't be alone. She didn't respond. But the silence? It said plenty. That Saturday, I wore a charcoal suit I hadn't touched since tenure review. Clean lines. Silver cufflinks. A tie Monica bought me 6 anniversaries ago, probably forgotten now. Eli showed up looking sharp, but nervous. I adjusted his collar and told him he looked like someone about to outshine every man in the room, including his biological father. He smiled. Even the guy marrying your ex? Especially him. The Winter Garden ballroom was predictably overdecorated. Chandeliers the size of smart cars, floral arrangements like aggressive shrubbery, and a string quartet playing an acoustic version of a Beyoncé song that made me question reality. Guests mingled near the bar. Some I recognized. Some I didn't. But all of them had the same frozen smiles. The kind people wear when they're trying not to say what they're really thinking. I didn't make a scene. I didn't approach Monica. I didn't glare at Leo, even when he made eye contact and did that little head tilt men do when they want you to know they've already won. Instead, I waited. Waited until the speeches. Leo's best friend gave a toast that mentioned trust 5 times in 3 minutes, which was impressive given how little of it anyone in the room seemed to have. Then Monica stood. She looked elegant, polished, practiced. She thanked everyone for being there, said love was about second chances, and called Leo her unexpected beginning. And that's when I stood. No mic. No announcement. Just me, in the back of the room, raising a glass. I'd like to say something, I said. The room quieted like someone had pressed mute. I'm Adam Keller, I continued. Some of you know me as Monica's ex-husband. Some of you probably forgot I existed. And that's fair. A few nervous laughs. Monica froze. I just wanted to say, this isn't a bitter man's interruption. I'm not here to yell. I'm not here to embarrass anyone. I'm here to acknowledge something. I held up the invitation. You sent me this. Which means, on some level, you wanted me here. So I came. And I brought my son. Heads turned toward Eli, who gave a small wave like someone caught mid-credits in a movie. I didn't know about him until recently, I said. But now I do. And I'm grateful. Because he reminded me of something. I turned to Monica. You don't lose people all at once. You lose them in fragments. One small betrayal at a time. A missed look. A canceled dinner. A laugh that's aimed elsewhere. I raised my glass. So here's to fragments. And to truth. May your future be full of both. I drank. The room didn't applaud. It didn't need to. The silence was the ovation. I walked out with Eli before Monica could follow. And in the car, he said, that was insane. I smiled. No, that was closure. But what they didn't know, that wasn't the final act. That was just the intermission. The fallout didn't take long. By Sunday afternoon, Monica's number lit up my phone 6 times. I didn't answer. Not because I was angry at this point. Anger was beneath me. But because I wanted her to sit in the silence she once handed me like a gift. She sent a message instead. That was cruel. No, it wasn't. It was truthful. But people who build kingdoms on dishonesty always call honesty cruelty. Eli, bless the kid, took it all in stride. Said the night was like watching a Netflix drama unfold live. He'd started calling Leo discount dad, which, despite my better judgment, cracked me up. Still, I could tell it weighed on him. No kid wants to see his newfound father do a walk-off in a ballroom full of broken decorum and cold risotto. So, the next week, I took him bowling. He was awful, but he tried. And I realized, maybe all I ever needed was someone who kept showing up, even when the pins didn't fall. Meanwhile, Clay, my PI, wasn't quite done. He called midweek. Said he found something in Monica and Leo's financial trail. Something quiet, but dirty. They were buying property. Together. Not just moving in property. Investment. A condo downtown, under an LLC registered 2 days before our legal separation was even filed. A shared future, financially fused before my signature had even dried on the dotted line. That's the kind of move that turns divorce from a heartbreak into a lawsuit. I met with my lawyer that Friday. Laid it all out. He didn't flinch. Adam, he said, flipping through the documents, how aggressive do you want to get? I didn't blink. all the way. Because if there's one thing Monica forgot, it's that the man she underestimated had 20 years of her secrets, her patterns, her tells. She thought she was building a new life. I was about to light a match under it. The courtroom wasn't dramatic. There were no slammed gavels or gasps from the gallery, just paperwork and tension. Monica looked polished as ever, but her eyes kept flicking toward Leo, who sat 3 rows back like a man trying not to look involved in his own consequences. My lawyer opened with financial misconduct, laid out the evidence like a butcher sharpening a knife. The LLC, the condo, the timeline. Monica's attorney squirmed, tried to push back with emotional stress and Adam's erratic behavior. But then I dropped the final card. Emails. Dozens of them. Clay had uncovered a hidden Gmail Monica used for her affair logistics. Hotel bookings, dinner reservations, even a shared calendar with Leo that marked dates with color codes. Blue was business. Gold was personal. There was a lot of gold. The judge didn't need convincing. Neither did the mediator. The court awarded me 70% of the joint assets. The house, the car, even half the condo Monica and Leo thought they'd squirrel away. Monica didn't cry. She just stared, because this wasn't a loss to her. It was confusion. How had the man she outpaced managed to catch up? Outside, Leo tried to speak to me. Actually had the nerve to offer a handshake. I looked him in the eye and said, "Every future you imagined was paid for with my past. Enjoy it while it lasts." Then I walked past him like he was a pothole. Months passed. Eli graduated high school. I was there. So was Monica. We didn't speak. She stood stiffly at the edge of the crowd while I stood beside my son, clapping like he'd just won the Super Bowl. I never got an apology from her, but I did get a text. It came one quiet night in January. "You didn't deserve what I did. I just wasn't brave enough to end it the right way. I hope one day you can forgive me. For real." I read it. I didn't respond. Not because I hated her, because I didn't care anymore. That's the thing they never warn you about heartbreak. It doesn't end with screaming or sobbing or revenge. It ends with peace. The kind of peace you only earn after walking through fire barefoot and realizing you never needed the building to begin with. I moved into a small townhouse. Eli comes by once a week. We play chess, talk about girls. He asks what kind of man he should be. And I always say the same thing. Be honest. Even when it hurts. Especially then. Monica and Leo? Last I heard, they were trying couples therapy. I hope it works. I genuinely do. Because the worst punishment I could ever wish on either of them is each other.